Morning.
Morning.
Thought we'd get started with a few church bloopers. Scouts are saving aluminum cans, bottles, and other items to be recycled. Proceeds will be used to cripple children. The Outreach Committee has enlisted 25 visitors to make calls on people who are not afflicted with any church. The evening massage will be at 6 p.m. The pastor would appreciate if the ladies of the congregation would lend him their electric girdles for the pancake breakfast next Sunday morning. Low self-esteem support group will meet 7 to 8:30 p.m. Please use the back door. Ushers will eat latecomers. For those of you who have children and don't know it, we have a nursery downstairs. The Reverend Merriweather spoke briefly, much to the delight of the audience. The pastor will preach his farewell message, after which the choir will sing, "Break forth into joy." During the absence of our pastor, we enjoyed the rare privilege of hearing a good sermon.
That's a bad one.
Next Sunday, Mrs. Vinson will be soloist for the morning service. The pastor will then speak on "It's a Terrible Experience." Remember in prayer the many who are sick of our church and community. The 8th graders will be presenting Shakespeare's Hamlet in the church basement on Friday at 7 p.m. The congregation is invited to attend this tragedy. And our last one. Today's sermon, "How much can a man drink?" with hymns from a full choir. Well, happy birthday, church. It's Pentecost. Pentecost is often referred to as the birthday of the church. And what a party they had. Seemed like everybody was at that party. The Galileans, the Parthians, Elamites, Mesopotamians, Egyptians, Jews, Romans, Arabs. It kind of reminds me of the rave parties they were holding in the 90s. Or if you're my age and you're back in the 60s, we might have said that was a groovy scene. Because that place was jammed and it was jamming. And then somebody seemed to turn up the volume on some sound effects. Big sound was heard, got everybody's attention. It was the sound of a rushing wind. The Message Bible said that got everybody's attention. And people got kind of excited over that. You know, we live in hurricane territory, and it doesn't matter who you are or what language you speak. The winds pick up and you know you'd better pay attention. Well, people were talking excitedly about it. And no matter what language you spoke, you knew this was something big. Everybody in every language understood this was a big event, and a convergence was meant for all of them. "What's going on?" people were saying. "Hey, how cool is this? Hey, we're all in this thing. They're speaking our language. I'm speaking theirs. We're all unified in this event." And it's like we all have these beacons of fire on top of our head because we're fired up here. can see us a mile away. I like that around here people say, hey, you're speaking my language. You get me. I feel something's happening to me here. You know, they didn't get me at home when I was growing up, and they didn't get me at my last church. They didn't get me when I told them I was gay. They didn't get me when I differed from their politics. But wow, they get me here. Now, a friend was telling me about a recent change in her health insurance company, and it required her to change her primary doctor. Well, she looked in the book and she was hoping to get a doctor close. The closest doctor to her seemed like it would be the most convenient. So she's looking through the directory and found somebody really close. But she looked at the name about 22 times before calling. How in the heck do you pronounce that? Dang, there's not a vowel in there anywhere to be found. Well, she finally made the call and got the appointment. And the receptionist said, Dr. office. Now, my friend had hoped she would have kind of caught the name well enough so she could pronounce it herself when she got to the appointment, but that didn't happen. And then the appointment fared no better. Dr. began asking her questions. Today. You riddle is 78 Walgreens. And on her way out, the doctor said, please don't forget to make your copay at the window. Well, when my friend was done telling me the story, I said, well, Doreen, did you learn anything at all? No, she said, I'm looking for a new doctor. I think I found one in the next town. But can you tell me how to pronounce See, it got a little complicated. She was hoping for someone who gets her, someone that would speak the same language. Jesus was the one that was always trying to uncomplicate things. Get on board, speak the language. Hey, speak a new language, a love language. Okay, let's get it basic, let's boil it down for you, said Jesus. I have just one big recommendation for you. Maybe I'll even command you to do this, and you know it's my number one principle. Love one another as I have loved you. Now Jesus was on his way out the door, so to speak, when he said this. Love one another as I have loved you. You see, it was part of his last series of teachings, and the clouds of the impending crucifixion were already gathering over Jerusalem. Now, they'd heard it all before. Those folks who kept hearing Jesus preach, they'd follow him here to here. And he taught it to his disciples. It was the same message he'd given to a lawyer who was playing Let's Stump the Rabbi game. You know, the categories were up on the board, and he was ready to ring in, and this lawyer said, okay, Rabbi, what's the most important commandment? And Jesus rung in right away. Love your neighbor as yourself. He taught and demonstrated it in the upper room when during the Last Supper he told them he was giving a new commandment. Love one another. And then he washed their feet. And now in John's Gospel, here he was again. Same crowd that followed him around, different day, same message. It was as though they hadn't gotten it the first time. Of course, they hadn't. They'd been there for all the teaching, preaching, and miracles. Ooh, really wanted to see some miracles. That really got them excited. Jesus, quit with this sermon already. I need some excitement. And they heard what the kingdom of God was like. A mustard seed, a shepherd, a hen brooding over chicks, a persistent widow who wouldn't give up on seeking justice, la da 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 da. Now Jesus was patient. He didn't preach and run. He allowed time for a question and answer period when he was done. Now you know how that's done. Please form a single line behind the microphone to ask your questions one at a time, please. We ask that you keep your question to under 1 minute so we can accommodate as many people as possible. So some of the people came and formed a line. And they would ask some brilliant questions, like the guy who said, when I get to heaven, can I sit at your right hand? Do you have some guidance on our group so that we might better word our long-term vision statement? Oh my. I enjoy listening to the Indigo Girls, and I needed a moment this week and went for a ride and popped in their CD. And suddenly I found myself singing along. The hardest to learn is the least complicated. The hardest to learn is the least complicated. Sometimes the most stunning thing to learn is really the simplest, but we complicate it. So we hear it again and again and again until we finally really do get it. So here it is. What did Jesus command us? And everybody said, love one another as I've told you.